Zealand Classic Festival 2017. I'm Seth Devereaux and I'm joined by the man Eddie Cat, Mr. Kattenberg. Enjoying yourself?
Yeah, mate, having a great weekend.
I see you riding Paul Pav's. Probably wasn't the plan to be riding his bike. Probably prefer your beautiful bimotor, but a gearbox trouble and it's the way it is.
Yeah, it's a shame that it broke. I tell you, big ups for Paul for letting me use his bike. He said to me, look, this bike, I've never lost a race on it. I bought it new in 1989. Do not crash it. So I don't know whether I'd lend me the bike under those circumstances. So yeah, no, thanks to Paul for that. It's really good.
Hey, you really put on a show out there with Dennis, and obviously Cam's trying to catch you. Is you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's all good, mate. It's good stuff. Yeah.
Hey Eddie, having raced Pukekohe back in the day before the chicane and probably when it was slightly smoother but not a lot, how do you find the difference? What's the difference between the modern layout to how it was?
I think the modern layout is much better. It's more technical, definitely, and it's got a little bit more happening over the back with the chicane. It's better in lots of ways. The track's still bumpy, but it always has been, you know, and everyone knows it for what it is, and it's always been a specialist playground, that is for sure. So, you know, local guys go really good here, and someone like Cam Donald, I can imagine he's just doing his head in, you know.
He's certainly struggling with the big Macintosh. He said that it's kind of wrapped him up in knots this weekend coming here, especially being at Hampton Downs on it. He doesn't feel like he's competitive compared to Dennis, but Dennis has maybe got a head start of, say, 1,000 laps.
I think, talking to Dennis the other day, he got it right by attacking it. You've got to attack this place really hard. Turn 1 is really difficult, and up over the hill. Both of those places are really bumpy and very high speed. So, like, I'm tipping in on the CFZ 1000 into turn 1 in top gear. No brake, just turning it off and rolling it in there, and it's super bumpy. So it gives you an idea of what you're dealing with. So if you're not up for it, yeah, you're just not going to be there, really.
How do you find racing vintage machinery in the modern era? I mean, nowadays, new tyres on them and things have changed a lot. We have a lot more suspension knowledge, maybe. How do you find racing these big old girls, knowing what you know now?
They're definitely much better to deal with now. Modern tyres are just so much better than what we had in the 80s and 90s. The tyres were really, really poor, and they didn't last very long either. So the modern tyres are much easier to deal with. Suspension, again, like the shocks that we can use, even though most of the post-classic bikes are using a period-style shock, the knowledge behind it is great. You know, so everyone understands how to make them work. Everyone understands geometry a lot more. The only offside to it a little bit is that big sticky tyres do make old frames flex. So they talk to you a lot. You know, there's a lot of movement. There's sort of stuff moves around. But that's what makes it cool, really, you know.
Being successful back in the day, I think, was, I'd say, 70% rider ability and maybe more than 30% mechanical knowledge, you know, understanding the bike and setting it up. Nowadays, the bikes are so forgiving, the riders have to know a lot less than they used to. I mean, back in the day, you had to listen for things nipping up or that little bit of a rattle or what that noise might have been. Or how do you find younger riders compared to the gentlemen that we have here today?
My biggest thing I think I've noticed is that young guys are always looking for an answer, either in the suspension guy or the tyre guy or whatever. There's a lot of people wandering around with shocks in their hands through the meetings, and I understand that they're looking for something. But back in the 80s when it was all production, you just had to ride it. Somewhere along the line you had to realise that you have to ride it. You have to learn to ride around problems. And I think that's kind of what's missing a little bit. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that really is the difference, eh? You know, so a guy like Pav or something like that, if he's got an issue, he'll figure a way to ride around it, where a young guy will probably just get off and go, like Cam's going. It doesn't work, you know, it's not my bike, you know. Where if he was 50-something, he'd just be going, oh, I'll just crack it on, you know. Yeah.